Hey, what's up, everybody? It's OC. I'm just bringing you another report back video here on this coronavirus outbreak thing, and letting you know everything is still pretty tame here. I have heard reports of from doctors that there was a case at ORMC here in Orlando, Florida. I've also heard of another doctor that released information about a case in Miami, Florida. So, and I'm here in the Orlando area, so it's close now. You know, it's not just in another continent anymore. It's been in the U.S. for quite a few weeks now, so we're bound to start seeing cases in every state eventually, at least in every metropolitan area where there's people constantly traveling in and out of to different other, cities in the country. So anyway, I know you guys have been watching the news all day or whatever of whatever they say is going on. So let's take a look and see what's going on for real.
We start with a sell-off. Another rapid reversal in the markets today. Earlier this session, stocks were actually higher. Hard to believe, but true. The Dow was back up above 28,149, but only for a cup of coffee. Before more headlines began crossing and then more selling programs hit, and the market turned south. The CDC saying the U.S. has done a pretty good job so far with rapid response, and coronavirus cases are still very low. But it also warned that the virus could hit us as well, and that will likely take down economic growth and earnings projections. So, Guy,
yes,
the nearly 2,000 point haircut in 48 hours of trading, is there any place to hide, any way to protect our viewers and listeners' portfolios today?
I think we've done a decent job of leading people down that path, and it comes in the form of bonds, as we've talked about now for months, and the gold market as well. Now, you could say, well, the gold market sold off today, and yes, that's the case. We can get into that later, but I still think both work. In terms of, though, what you do now, you have to be looking for levels where this stops. And we've been talking about one specific level in this S&P 500, 3030, which is now just 100 or so S&P points from here. And that's not unrealistic to think we could see it over the next week or so. I mean, given what we've seen over the last couple of days, you could see it in 24 hours. I think that's a reasonable level of a retracement. I think that gets us down about 11-12% from the all-time high. It makes sense for a lot of reasons. Then you try to figure out your individual stocks accordingly. If you want one other line in the sand, and we've talked about this, I know Dan's been all over this, the Russell never made a new high while the S&P was making a new high. The IYM, the Russell Small Cap Index, 150 is your line in the sand there.
Tim, any reason to believe that the selling is over?
No, there's no reason to believe, because if you think about what spurred on this next round, it's a combination of understanding, where Korea, which is really at the center of the global supply chain, certainly as we get into semiconductors and some of the things that have been, most aggressively hit. But also the fact is that the disease is spreading, and the disease is ultimately affecting consumer confidence. We talk often about really the consumer having been the savior for this economy. And let's be clear, this is a market that was, absolutely unperturbed by the move in the disease and where we had gone in the 3 weeks, while bond yields were probing lows. And I know if you look at the Treasury market, which we got to 132 on the 10-year, again, record lows, took out those lows from 2013, which was really the last time we were around here. That tells you, and that told you, though, even before the equity markets responded. So I don't want to be sensational here. And in fact, I think markets are on a short term very, very oversold. Having said that, what's driving sentiment right now is something that is impossible to understand. And why should that change overnight?
On our special last night, Dan, you and Josh did a great job, and you said something which proved accurate. And you guys said, both of you agreed, that if the market tried to rally this morning and rolled over, as it did, that would be a bad situation for equities.
Well, I guess the situation was that there was no scenario, there was no tweet, there was nothing that was going to come out that was really going to change sentiment overnight. And so I just think what's really interesting about the CDC coming out and the leg down that the market took and closing really near the lows here just tells you that if people are dissatisfied with the way China, authoritarian government, has handled this disease, how do you think it's going to be in a block of nations that have free movement in Europe? How do you think it's going to be here in this country with a bunch of citizens who have a lot of guns and stuff like that. I mean, it's just not going to go particularly well. I'm just saying. So that's really what the panic was today. And I guess what I would say is that I don't think there's really any cause for alarm for the same reason, at least as it relates to the stock market. We went up, what, 6, 7, 8% over the last 2 months for really no good reason. And the fact that we've given back 6 or 7% in a straight line, makes some sense. Guy's level of 30-30 is also the breakout level in the S&P from late October that it basically went up 12% in a straight line. So to me, that's a level I think where you start buying the dip or thinking about those names that you've been wanting to get into. 30-30 in the S&P 500 is the intersection of the late October breakout, and it's basically the 200-day moving average. And if we don't know what the heck is going on here, a lot of traders, a lot of investors will lean on technicals.
There is a point of view, Gina, where you hear it on the social media. People say, why are you making such a big deal about this? Luckily, the fatality rate's low. We got 14 cases in the United States. It's not that widespread in Europe. Here's why, and tell me if this is wrong. China is, let's call it 1/4 of the global economy. Europe, 1/4 of the global economy. We're 1/4, and the rest of the world makes up the rest. If we start to see a slowdown in Europe and China, as we've already had, we have to take down earnings estimates, multiples, earnings yield, everything.
Everything has to come down. I agree with you, and I'm not sure that just going back to October is going to cover that kind of a scenario. And I think what we're still grappling with is, are we dealing with a local Asian outbreak, or are we dealing with a global pandemic? Those are two very different things. And those, granted, even in the global pandemic scenario, you're still dealing with something that's probably a quarter to a half a year long in terms of pain, and then you tend to get a recovery from there. But we don't know what we're dealing with yet, and we're still trying to figure that out. And the big stress test is what happens and how does the U.S. handle it? Because if the U.S. cannot handle containment of this virus, then no one can.
So look at the, hold on, guy. I want Tim jump in, but keep those stock charts up here of the S&P laggards. I think that tells a story. Look at the names on this list. If you're on the radio, here they are: American Airlines, Occidental, Southwest Air, Live Nation, and Marriott. Here's why I find this list interesting, and the stocks all got whacked 8 and 9%. Tim, Live Nation is a concert promoter. Right? They're pretty much, they're global, but they get people together. Southwest Airlines basically has no international presence. A little bit, whatever, Puerto Rico, that's it. This is the market saying people are going to be nervous about congregating in groups and doing things where they might spend money.
Right. So we've never contemplated this dynamic in this country. We, at least not in my lifetime. And as has been pointed out here, we have a case here where this is typically a contained geographic event. So consumer confidence has been critical to this market. The other side of this, though, is when the Fed starts to say, and there's been quotes over the last couple of days, essentially we're ready to respond, or we're watching. And what can the Fed do at this point? And it gets to something that we often talk about on the show for a long time. To me, the Fed's comments here sound a lot like the BOJ, who's been, basically flailing in the wind for many years here. So you're right, Brian, to point out the domestic element of that sell-off. I think airlines, the multinational ones, I think the entire airline space is being sold for that reason.
Okay, so as you can see, the stock market is continuing to go down. If you think those numbers are bad, you should see yesterday's numbers if you haven't already, because yesterday's numbers are astronomically worse than today's numbers. It just went down a little further today than it did from yesterday. Yesterday's numbers were ridiculously low. But anyhow, the numbers have continued to go down, as you can see there. It's not just me saying this. I'm not just some conspiracy theorist just giving you crap. There's the numbers. The markets are closing lower and lower. My prediction is they'll continue to do that all week. And then when they reopen, or when they go to reopen on Monday, they won't reopen. That's my guess. But most people are going to take their money out of the stock market and put it into bonds this week. Any of the smart people are. And the money, cash money, this stuff is going to be no good. No good at all. None. Zero. It's going to have no value. They're going to drive the dollar into the ground, and it'll, equivalent with the money being so devalued, a loaf of bread will cost $4, $5, for a cheap loaf of bread. So that's to kind of give you an idea of where things are headed, on a Walmart level, I guess, if you want to take it that way. But anyway, here's some more footage of what's actually going on in the streets.
Good evening. While the world is dealing with climate change and its effects, with the latest being the freak weather in Australia, where deadly bushfires raged on for weeks on end, followed by hailstorms, there's hunger and epidemic across parts of the world. But at this moment, we might be witnessing the story of the decade, the coronavirus outbreak. And this is a special focusing on what's happening in Wuhan. More people have now died from coronavirus in China than they did worldwide during the 2002-2003 outbreak of the severe acute respiratory syndrome, also known as SARS. The death toll has now risen to 811. The total number of affected people in China now stands at a staggering 37,198. This is the very latest data put out by the Chinese government. 89 deaths and 2,656 new cases have been recorded in the 24 hours time alone, most of them in the Hubei province that has been the heart of this outbreak. A United States citizen died from the coronavirus in Wuhan, that is the provincial capital of Hubei. There have been only 2 confirmed deaths from the new coronavirus, though outside of mainland China, one in Hong Kong, the other in the Philippines. Though the number of new cases confirmed in the country has stabilized in the recent days, but the World Health Organization officials have cautioned against reading too much into those numbers, saying that Wuhan and Hubei were still in the midst of a very intense outbreak. Though only 3 cases have been detected in India, it is important to understand the seriousness of the epidemic. China is not only trying to contain the deadly virus, but there have been reports to suggest that the government there is also trying to control the outflow of information. We'll talk more about that in just a bit. But in this edition of India Ahead at 9, we take a look at some videos posted by a journalist outside of China who's been tracking the outbreak since the last week of January. His Twitter handle is @SOTIRIDI. We'll also show you what China is doing to control the panic and fear that has gripped the entire country. Not an easy task, given that China is the most populated country in the world. Take a look at this leaked video now that shows a massive mass exodus trying to leave major cities right after the WHO declared the coronavirus outbreak a global health emergency. We cannot verify exactly where in China this video has been shot, though. Several videos now on social media show how people are dropping dead on the floor after being unable to battle the effects of the deadly virus. Let's put up that video for you. You see a man on the cycle passing by with a mask, but behind him what looks to be a closed down shop where cars are parked. You can see a man laying on the floor, presumably dead. This video is from the Hubei province of China, the epicenter of the outbreak. Here's another clip, now again from the Hubei province. Let's put out the other clip now. Let's also warn our viewers, these videos may contain some very disturbing images. Viewer discretion is advised. As you see, a man passing by in a car, trying to shoot what's happening around him, and there he spots a dead body lying on the streets, on the pavement. Let's pull out another clip. People just collapsing on the streets. This is happening on a daily basis in Wuhan due to extremely high fever. This is from the 31st of January. This video that you see right now, paramedics attending to a person who's been infected. They say the infection has largely been contained but not completely taken care of. It continues to spread. You can see them picking up another dead body from the middle of the street. It's also important to note how they are wearing special suits to take precautions so that they themselves do not come into contact with the infected patient. This is happening on a daily basis, as I said. This person on the floor next, as the paramedics arriving and trying to resuscitate the patient. Paramedics trying to resuscitate this particular person by thumping his chest repeatedly, giving him CPR, preparing the stretcher as well, trying to take the person away from the middle of the road over there. You can see a police car being parked there, paramedics trying to resuscitate this person who presumably is very ill because of coronavirus. Remember, the virus results in high fever, extreme weakness. The symptoms are like common cold, but the effects can be disastrous, catastrophic. 811 people now dead in China. Thousands of people in the next clip that I'm going to show to you, people standing in endless queues trying to get tested for coronavirus. This is happening in Hubei province. This video is been posted online on the 31st of January. Managing the rush at hospitals has been one of the most difficult challenges for the Chinese at this point. You can see hundreds and thousands of people in that queue that seems to be endless, trying to get themselves checked, trying to get themselves tested for coronavirus so that they can safely go back and sleep a good night's sleep. That's not happening for many people in Wuhan in China. Now let's put out another video. Cannot verify the exact location of this particular video, but the Chinese police is seen to be arresting people, and this has again become a norm, who refuse to wear a mask in the public place. Here you can see a female being dropped on the floor by a cop. Later she was arrested. Let's put up the sound for our viewers as well.
是人太坏了，还踢警察。
The woman at a shopping mall spotted not wearing a mask. The security officials move in and literally arrest her. This woman is being arrested because she's not wearing a mask in a public space. Let's pull out the next video, which is presumably shot on the 1st of February, where you can see another man who's dropping dead on the street in Wuhan in the Hubei province of China.
这个冰品现在多恐怖！哎呀妈，已经比那过恐怖了，好恐怖啊，好吓人！直接一个杀一刀的。
These cases are becoming more and more common by the day. In another shocking video, medics can be seen what appears to be a dead body in a biohazard bag. They're taking the body outside of an apartment building in hazmat suits. This video once again from Wuhan. You can see at least a dozen people in hazmat suits trying to take out the dead body outside of this apartment building. They're trying to evacuate apartments as well. More and more videos as we go along. There are enough and more videos, in fact, to show the Chinese cops are arresting anyone who's being seen without wearing a face mask. Next up is the CCTV video of a woman in a white overcoat at a counter in Hubei province, cops approaching her and then forcefully placing her under arrest, again shot on the 1st of February. You watch this entire video to see how serious the threat is in China and what kind of precautions they are being forced to take at the moment. Forcefully being placed under arrest. She's trying to resist that, but to no avail. Eventually, she will be in handcuffs and will be taken away. Her crime is that she is in a public place and that she's not wearing a mask, a face mask. Now, even some within the crowd start heckling another young woman for not wearing the mask. The virus spreads so rapidly that precautions have to be taken. She gets agitated and launches a physical attack on the others there. Just watch.
他
哎呀，我们也不想要。现在非常时期，不带口罩之前，我们从一起进来的。我们为什么？你想他们跑那边了，是不是？我们工作期，哎呀，我们也不想要。现在非常时期，不带口罩之前，我们从一起进来的。
This is a scene from what appears to be a shopping mall inside of Wuhan. Now, another elderly man in the next clip can be seen lying on the floor lifeless after being infected with the deadly coronavirus. This is in the middle of the street in broad daylight. Absolutely no people out on the streets, mostly in the Wuhan province. The entire province has been in a lockdown mode for days now. People are falling ill after coming in contact with the coronavirus, and they seem to be lifeless at a point. They're so ill that they literally are dropping dead. This even as people are lining up in thousands at hospitals to get themselves tested for the virus, but there aren't enough hospitals to deal with the rush. This is a queue in one of the hospitals in Wuhan, where you can see another long queue of people who are just trying to get themselves tested, trying to get that reassurance that they are not infected by coronavirus. The threat is very real. This is something which we haven't witnessed in modern history. Such is the plight, in fact, that one person in Hubei committed suicide by jumping off of a bridge because allegedly he was denied admission inside a hospital because the hospital that he went to was overcrowded. And these are the scenes from Wuhan. This is the scene, exact spot where that man jumped off from a bridge, committing suicide. He refused to go back to his house. He feared that he would pass on the infection to his own family members. This was shot on the 1st of February. All these videos are out. They're out on social media, and they are, one video is more bizarre than the other. This is the police reaching the site where the man jumped off of this bridge because he wasn't taken in by the hospital that he went to and he didn't want to go back home. He committed suicide. Government officials now in the last couple of days are seen to be sealing off the main doors of apartments, and in some cases the entire apartment building with people in it, after they learn about 1 or 2 cases of coronavirus. This is a shot of a person's apartment. The main door is being sealed. In this particular case, they're not using the welding machine, but as we move forward, we're going to show you visuals of how officials are literally welding the doors of entire apartment buildings to let the people be. The fear is that if more and more people who are infected with coronavirus are out on the streets, it's going to result in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. Let's move on to the next video. Here you can see the military moving in this next video to seal the main gate of an apartment building. This is what I was talking about. People here are infected. 1 or more people. We cannot confirm exactly how many people were diagnosed in this building. Several and more videos have been emerging in the last few days. Let's just let you hear what's happening over there.
听到了吗？有米有菜有裤子，出来是要米要紧，听到吗？啊，不要出来啊！好，我是啊。
They've literally sealed that door, locked it and placed an iron rod in between the 2 handles so that nobody can open that door. But still somebody is trying to open it from the inside. They're trying to shut it. They're leaving the people inside. The fear is that the virus is going to spread further. Military paramedics in this next video can be seen visiting apartment buildings one by one in each city, as the Chinese government is speeding up the process of finding people infected with the virus, locking them down if they find 1 or 2 cases. Look at that.
我们小区着了，好严呐。
This is night time, of course. Somebody is filming what's happening. Below, you see military men really moving in, apartment by apartment, screening people for coronavirus. Next up, I'm going to put out the video footage from somewhere in the Hubei province of paramilitary police forces of China roaming the streets with rifles and telling through a speaker to people not to go outside of their houses, to stay indoors, to stay put in their buildings. Calls being made on the loudspeaker. Cut to another video footage that we've got for you. Chinese police officers surrounding an apartment building in the Hubei province where at least one person was detected with coronavirus. All residents are asked to stay back inside the building. Just look at the sheer amount of forces that are stationed outside of an apartment building. This is just another apartment building in Hubei. But this is a message being sent out by the Chinese government that even if one person in your building is affected with coronavirus, dare you come out. Everybody with masks on. Not having a face mask at this time in China is equal to a crime. As you could clearly see, people are being arrested for not wearing a face mask in public places. This is what's happening outside one of the apartment buildings. Similar scenes being reported from across various cities in China. Another video footage taken in the city of Nantong in the Jiangsu province of China. Family of 4 being forced into an ambulance. They want to isolate these 4 because all of them in the same family have been diagnosed with coronavirus. The government officials found them a threat. They said they cannot let loose these people who have been infected. Let's just put up the sound.
强行啊，一家4口啊。每天不是没有日台，盯着看。
You can see what looks like a husband, wife and their 2 children being forcefully taken inside the ambulance. The 4 of them infected with the deadly virus. Moving to the next video coming in from China of the Chinese government converting entire stadiums into field hospitals. The plan is to transfer people who've been infected with the virus away from the hospitals, because there is general public also coming in for tests at the hospitals. The field hospitals there being prepared with thousands of beds inside stadiums which are now looking like this. We'll show you videos going forward as to how some of these field hospitals have already been filled up. They've sent people who've been infected with the virus in these makeshift hospitals, field hospitals, where the plan is to quarantine all of these patients infected with coronavirus. Another video footage of the same stadium being converted into a field hospital. This is happening in Wuhan in the Hubei province. Preparations have been on for the last couple of days once the Chinese understood the scale, the sheer scale of the threat due to coronavirus. You can see work is on at full speed to prepare beds by the thousands, converting entire stadiums into field hospitals. Another bigger stadium prepared in China turned into a field hospital to transfer infected people with the virus. People who are now showing mild symptoms are expected to be put up in these field hospitals. Next up, we're going to try and show you what the Chinese government is doing at the moment. The Chinese government, Global Times, which is a mouthpiece of the Chinese government in China, has put out a report in which you can hear a 24-year-old young girl talking about how she was able to cure herself by keeping herself in quarantine in her own house for 11 days. This is a message that the Chinese government is sending out to the people. The larger message being, if a 24-year-old girl can do it, so can you. The larger message being, if you think you have coronavirus, if you think you're infected, you must follow this simple procedure. Just lock yourself up in your house, quarantine yourself, don't step out. Just listen into parts of this video.
贾娜是一名护士，今年24岁了。我是在23号那一天，确实也感受到，觉得四肢都没有力气嘛，浑身很飘那种感觉，头也有点昏。24号早上的时候2点多，我的这个核酸结果也出来了，然后是阳性的。当时我知道这个结果，当时我躺在床上，知道这个结果之后，我特别的难过。真的很难受，但是没有人可以说。到现在，我家里人都不知道这个情况。
那你打算什么时候告诉他们
呀？我自己想的是就不告诉他们了吧。现在我自己感觉身体挺好的，没有什么不舒服的。24号开始吃药的，然后一直到2月3号晚上做的那个鼻咽拭子转移。一共好像是11天，前2天我就恢复的差不多了，但是现在还是要好好按时吃药吧，把药吃了，就再增强一点，巩固一下。每个人的情况不一样噻，所以说对于药物这方面我也是不能说什么，还是要遵医嘱去用药。但是我觉得如果你是疑似的，但是还没有确诊，你就担心自己是，这时候一定要把自己隔离起来，因为这个病它其实对大多数人来说它不是很可怕，就是它传播性比较快。如果你是轻症的话，那么首先你要先把自己隔离起来，然后就再从我说的那个饮食，还有一些消毒卫生方面，还有心态上面都要做好。如果你有什么症状的话，就不舒服的话，还是要对症处理。是奥司他韦，然后这个是拜夫勒，这个莲花清瘟，还有一个是阿比多尔。这是我吃过最难吃的一个药，每次吃完刚开始吃的时候，每次吃完都要吐的，失去那个味觉了一样。我在家隔离，因为我知道我的情况，并且我也没有什么太大不舒服。还有最重要的一个原因就是我离医院比较近，我可以随时很快的就能到医院了，也是一个确保的因素。另外一个原因就是医院的那个床位还是很紧缺的，我觉得我这种没有。
For China's Xi Jinping, the epidemic, the coronavirus epidemic, is not just a health crisis of massive proportions, but it's also a political test. He's built an authoritative regime over the last couple of years, at least 6 to 7 years, and this is a test for the Chinese leadership as well, how it manages to get past this stage. In fact, let's continue to play out some more shocking videos. This video is from Hubei in China. This is a camp that has been made to keep all those who are infected. It looks very isolated from the main city, and there you can see a father and daughter, a family trying to escape what looks like a sort of a detention camp for people affected with coronavirus. It's absolutely appalling. In some cases, there have been these camps that have been built up, they've been guarded by heavy security, and trenches have been built around these camps. This is one family trying to escape this sort of a camp.
Wow.
This is the video that I was talking about, trenches being made. Let's try and listen into what's happening in the background.
跟我去来，再来。
知道了，对吧？
You can see the military personnel over there very clearly guarding all of these tents that have been put up presumably to quarantine people away from the main cities. Remember, this is also a worry. People who are infected with the virus have to be kept away from the larger population, China being the most populated country in the world. Managing an epidemic becomes that much more difficult in this situation. Thousands of tents being guarded, trenches being built around so that people are not able to escape. Let's quickly move on. I want to show you a very, very shocking video that might not even be normal, to show you the psychological impact that this kind of an epidemic has on people. You can see a boy who seems to be infected with the coronavirus inside Wuhan in a departmental store, and he's spitting on packed products. Normally, one can assume that this person is disillusioned. The person wants the other people who come into this departmental store to also be infected with the coronavirus. This is deadly. This is absolutely deadly. This person is not even wearing a mask. It's the person is out in a departmental store, and such is the psychological impact of the outbreak across China. Let's pull out another video now. And there have been many, many videos that we came across. We'll try and bring to you maximum visuals. And this is a girl. In fact, let's just listen into what's happening and how the security forces are trying to force themselves on her in terms of stopping her from crossing over to the other city. This is a young girl who's basically driving at a time when the city borders have been sealed. She's being overpowered by the security officials on the street. She wasn't allowed to drive, but she still took her car out and she was trying to escape the city that is now infected. This is absolutely shocking, to say the least. In fact, as we come to the fag end of our show, let's also try and show you in the last couple of days what's happening. This is what I was talking about earlier. An entire apartment building's main door being welded with people inside their houses because one or more people have found to be infected with the deadly coronavirus. This is an epidemic that China is fighting very hard to contain at the moment. What we are learning right now is thousands and thousands of people are going to go back to work, at least in cities like Shanghai. They've been on leave, schools have been shut, shops have been closed, only shops selling essential commodities have remained open. On Monday, all of these people will try to get back to work, but in batches. Very important story of coronavirus. We'll continue to get you latest updates from China and back home as well to talk about a virus, an outbreak that may be the story of the decade. Thanks so much for tuning in.
So there you go. There's some more footage of what's going on in the streets and whatnot. Now also, I'm not the only one that's reporting on all this kind of stuff. There's other people reporting too, like this.
China's initial response to the coronavirus received praise, but now with the accusations of cover-ups, crackdowns, and even forced quarantines beginning to mount, is China trying to shut down coronavirus whistleblowers? The start of criticism towards the Chinese authorities was the death of whistleblowing doctor Li Wenyang. He's one of now 2 high-profile doctors to die as a result of the outbreak. Dr. Li was working at Wuhan Central Hospital when he saw multiple instances of this coronavirus, now known officially as COVID-19 in patients. He tried to warn fellow medics over a messaging app at the end of December, telling them to wear protective clothing. Because communication is so monitored in China, the authorities soon caught up with Dr. Li. Police then made him sign a letter which accused him of making false comments that had severely disrupted the social order. In an interview with the New York Times, Dr. Li said he felt he was being wronged at the time, but he had to accept it, and that if there was more openness and transparency, it would have been a lot better. Just 1 week after Dr. Li blew the whistle, the first death from the virus was confirmed. Less than 6 weeks later, Dr. Li himself was dead from the very virus he tried to warn against. Social media is heavily censored in China, yet many went online to hail the doctor as a martyr and a hero. There's even footage of citizens blowing whistles in unison. And it wasn't just ordinary people reacting. Government officials, celebrities and business leaders joined in. At the time, remember, millions of Chinese people were holed up inside under lockdown, and they had hours to pore over messages of outrage after Dr. Li's death. The phrase, "We want freedom of speech," began to trend on Weibo, the Twitter-like website in China, before it was censored. This image showing Dr. Li's mask with barbed wire was also shared widely. Unusually, the Communist Party bowed to this pressure. They've said they now sent an inspection group to thoroughly investigate issues relating to Dr. Li's death, and other Chinese authorities paid their respects publicly.
国家卫生健康委表示深切哀悼，向李文亮医生的家属表示诚挚慰问。
This kind of fast response to public dissent in China is rare. The doctor who first blew the whistle about the SARS virus in 2003 has been erased from official records of the time. Citizen journalists have also been disappearing, increasing the tension between freedom of speech on the internet and China's one-party state.
李文亮医生死了。
This is businessman Fang Bing, who became well known for posting videos online of Wuhan, the city at the center of the coronavirus outbreak. His footage appears to show relatives mourning sick and dead loved ones in a Wuhan hospital. He was campaigning for people to speak out about the realities of the virus, accusing the Chinese government of a cover-up.
大家一定要行动起来，要传播，要把真相传播出去。今天的肺炎，今天的武汉肺炎，既是天灾，也是人祸，更是人祸。
Fang Bing's account went quiet on the 7th of February. His last video was a piece of paper reading, "All citizens resist, hand power back to the people." He's one of at least 4 people reportedly detained by Chinese authorities this month. Chen Kuoshe, a lawyer who was also documenting life in Wuhan, has vanished. Friends and family said they believed he'd been forcibly quarantined. And Xu Zhuyong, who's a lawyer and activist, is also thought to have been detained. Zhu Zhangrong, a prominent academic, became the first high-profile figure to call out President Xi for his handling of the crisis. He wrote an essay called "Viral Alarm: When Fury Overcomes Fear." In it, he said the spread of the virus was down to the rotten core of Chinese governance. This kind of public criticism of President Xi is not the done thing in China. Reportedly, the professor has since been placed under house arrest for days. His friends say he's been barred from social media and is now cut off from the internet. He's not the only academic to take a stand. 10 Wuhan professors signed an open letter to the government. They demanded the right to freedom of speech and asked President Xi's party to apologize and compensate whistleblowers. The coronavirus outbreak is causing Chinese citizens to challenge their government like never before. But China's response to the virus has been internationally praised, for the most part. Not like in 2003, when the SARS outbreak was hugely damaging. China were heavily criticized for withholding information about the epidemic for too long. Of course, a lot has changed since then. We can now diagnose viruses quicker, and this time transparency has been much better. The World Health Organization says China told them about this coronavirus on the 31st of December 2019. That's just one day after Dr. Li sent those warning messages to medics. Telling the World Health Organization means scientists can work together quickly to try and stop an epidemic in its tracks. They praised China's more open approach in countless press conferences.
China has taken one of the most ancient strategies for infectious disease control and rolled out probably the most ambitious and I would say agile and aggressive disease containment effort in history.
Even some of the country's most famous critics praised their efforts.
I spoke with President Xi of China, and he's working very hard on this. It's a tremendous problem, but they're very capable, and they'll get to it.
Their practical response drew admiration. China built 2 hospitals at lightning speed in Wuhan, geared to deal with the virus. One was built in 10 days, another in 12. Together, they boast 2,600 beds. But official data shows that the hospitals are running at just half their capacity. The number of beds are far outstripping the number of patients being treated. And this is where the international community's concerns lie. What is propaganda and what is truth? While scientists try to find a cure for COVID-19, the political debate rages on. The virus has now killed more than 2,000 people globally, with new infections daily. The international community has praised China's swift response to the crisis, but they're also aware of the massive economic pain the country is in, with millions of people off work and businesses not operating normally. With that economic pressure comes an urgent need to potentially downplay the threat of the virus. While China claims the number of new infections are falling, the World Health Organization says it's still too early to determine a downward trend. With a new disease, the battle for facts is tense and crucial. But now we see many Chinese people demanding better information and greater freedom of speech than an authoritarian government might allow.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this video update about the coronavirus and how things are going, not just with the virus, but also the economical damage that it's causing. So wise people should really understand this, and they've already done something, and unwise people should wise up. At least prepare, at least buy a little bit of water, some stuff to get you through about a month, that way you don't have to go out. The point is not because you're going to have to stockpile stuff, it's just so that you can get through about a month without having to go out, so that you don't contract it. Because at some point they're going to advise people to not go anywhere, and most companies are going to shut down as a result of it. So in preparation of that, so you don't have to go out there rummaging around hordes of people to get things, why not just go out and get a couple of cases of water now, so that you don't have to worry about dealing with that chaos later. And if it doesn't get into chaos, you could just eat the stuff and drink the water. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching these videos. I do appreciate it. Please share the videos, because for some reason when people see that videos are popular, they click on them. Subscribed already, please do, and click like. It helps the video get seen on platforms so that more people can see the information. We can make a difference, but we must speak up, and this is my way of speaking up. I'm only going to do 2 more videos about this. If I do anything past these next 2 videos that I'm going to put out, it'll be like live streams of actual chaos that's going on in my area, if it comes to that. So stay tuned to the channel by clicking, subscribe and the bell, so that you know when I'm going live. So if things do start going crazy and I'm going live, it's for a reason. So these next 2 videos are going to be just basically informal videos. The next one's going to be about prepping, and the one after that is going to be about the Spanish flu. I think I might do the Spanish flu one next, and then the prep video last. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's how we're going to do it, but that's just what they're going to be about. I want people to understand what the Spanish flu is about, so that they can understand what this is and what we're about to be going through. And then they can grasp a little bit better idea of what they see happening in the rest of the world right now, adapting to what happened with the Spanish flu, and see how scary that shit was. And knowing that travel is exponentially larger now than it was then. So we're looking at a faster widespread outbreak, And remember, most people are going to be asymptomatic, meaning you don't know if they have it or not, and they don't know if they have it or not, but they do, and they're passing it on to other people that are going to become symptomatic, which meaning they're going to get sick. And out of those people who get sick, that even those asymptomatic people spread it to, some of them are going to die. So right now, they're only testing for people with a temperature, which is ridiculous, because if you're asymptomatic, then you're not going to have a temperature. So checking for a temperature isn't good enough. They need to be able to do larger measures to be able to dissect who has it and who doesn't. So anyway, thanks so much everybody for watching. Please continue to watch the videos. I'm only going to make 2 more of this series, and they're going to be in a playlist as all the others are before it already, and the one that you're watching now. Thank you so much again. Please share the videos. We can make a difference, but we must speak up.